The last stand. The sky burned red over the battlefield of Rethkar. Smoke rose from broken ships and shattered machines. The ground was covered in ash and blood. The air smelled of fire, metal, and something worse. Fear. Alien soldier Kayla stood, alone in the middle of the destruction. Her armor was cracked. Her green blood dripped from her side. One of her arms barely moved and her rifle was nearly empty. Still, she stood tall. She was the last of her squad. The enemy, machines made by the warlords of Irex Prime, moved in the distance. Cold, heartless killers. No fear, no mercy. Just one goal: destroy everything. Kayla took a deep breath, even though it burned her lungs. Her antenna twitched. Her three-fingered hands tightened around the rifle. She had one goal too: hold the line until the end. "This is Kayla, of Clan Virex," she whispered into her helmet's mic. "Anyone still alive?" "Only static," answered her. She wiped her eyes and looked up. The machines were coming again. Another wave, bigger than the last. She counted them: 12 walkers, 6 drones, and 2 skyburners. Too many. Her hand shook slightly, but she stood her ground. The rifle clicked. Out of ammo, Kayla dropped it. She reached to her side and pulled out her last weapon. A plasma blade. Old, weak, flickering. This is how it ends, she thought. Alone, like a true warrior. But just as she stepped forward, boom, a large blast of smoke exploded near the enemy line. The machines paused. Kayla's eyes narrowed. From the smoke, a shadow walked forward. Humanoid. Tall. Broad shoulders. No metal parts. No machine body. Just a strange, dark figure walking straight toward the battle. "What?" Kayla whispered. The figure got closer. Now she could see him clearly. A human. He wore armor unlike anything she had seen before. It was old, dented, and looked like it had been made from different broken machines. A glowing blade hung from his side. He had no helmet, just messy dark hair and sharp eyes full of fire. The human stopped a few meters away from Kayla. He looked at her, nodded once, then turned toward the enemy machines. Kayla shouted, "What are you doing here, human? This is not your war." He didn't answer. Instead, he pulled his blade and ran forward. With speed and power that shocked her, he jumped onto a machine walker and sliced it open. Sparks flew. The machine screamed and fell. Another drone shot at him. He rolled, dodged, and threw something small. Boom. The drone exploded. Kayla's mouth opened in shock. One man, one human, and he was taking down war machines like they were toys. The enemy focused on him now. That gave Kayla time to breathe. She looked at her weak plasma blade, and then at the human. He was still fighting, still moving. But more machines were coming. She couldn't just watch. Kayla tightened her grip on her blade and joined the fight. Back to back, the alien girl and the human fought together. Kayla moved with trained precision, slicing drones in half. The human fought wild and fast like a beast with a purpose. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. Enemies kept coming. But something was different now. Kayla didn't feel alone anymore. When the last drone fell and the field became quiet again, both of them stood breathing hard. Smoke still floated in the air. Fire still burned around them. But for the first time in hours, Kayla felt hope. She turned to him. "Who are you?" The human gave a small smile. "Name's Ryan. Crashed here 2 days ago. Saw you fighting. Figured you could use a hand." Kayla stared. "You're mad. You should have run." Ryan wiped blood from his face. "You fought well. But you're not alone anymore." Kayla's eyes widened. No one had said that to her in a long time. Behind them, in the smoke, more machines were powering up. A new wave was coming. Kayla looked at Ryan. He raised his blade again. She smiled for the first time in days. "Then let's finish this together." They turned toward the sound of heavy metal steps and charged. The stranger from the smoke, Kayla's legs trembled as she stood beside the strange human. Her blade was almost drained, her muscles burned, but the fire in her chest, the feeling she thought was lost, was back. Hope. The machines had pulled back for now, but the battlefield still groaned with danger. Somewhere in the distance, the enemy was regrouping. The storm wasn't over. She looked at the human. He was crouched beside a broken drone, pulling pieces from its chest like he'd done it 100 times before. His hands moved quickly with skill and purpose. Kayla aimed her blade at him. "You're not one of ours. Who sent you?" The human didn't even flinch. "No one. Crashed here 2 days ago. Ship tore in half. I've been surviving in the wreckage since." Kayla narrowed her eyes. "You waited until now to show yourself?" He stood, holding a small energy core in one hand and a smoke-scorched metal plate in the other. "I waited until it mattered." Kayla didn't know whether to trust him. He didn't wear any known faction armor. His weapon looked old, primitive even. But the way he fought, it wasn't luck. "You fight like a mad beast," she said. "Better than dying like a quiet one," Ryan replied. Suddenly, Kayla stumbled. Her knees gave way. Ryan rushed forward and caught her before she hit the ground. "You're bleeding bad." No, she muttered. He carried her into a burned-out supply crate nearby. Inside was shelter from the wind and smoke. Ryan pulled off his ragged backpack and started opening small earth medkits. Kayla winced as he pressed healing foam to her wounds. She tried to push him away. "I don't need help." "Yes, you do," he said, his voice calm but firm. "And it's okay. You're allowed to need help." Her lips parted, but no words came. For so long, needing help meant weakness. But this human, he didn't speak like a soldier. He spoke like someone who had lost and still stood back up. As he wrapped her arm, she noticed strange tattoos on his skin, symbols not of Earth but of other places, old ones, outlaw symbols. Her eyes narrowed. "You're not just a pilot," she said. "No," Ryan admitted. "I used to be many things. Smuggler, scout, prisoner, then soldier. Now, just a man trying to do something right." Kayla blinked. She didn't know what to say. Outside, a sound pierced the air, a warning tone, deep and sharp. Kayla sat up fast. "Recon drone. They're searching." Ryan peeked through a crack in the crate wall. A single red eye hovered in the smoke. Without a word, he grabbed Kayla's blade and placed the drained power cell from the drone inside it. The blade hummed back to life. A soft blue glow lit her face. Kayla stared. "You fixed it?" He smirked. "Alien tech isn't so different from human junk. You just have to know what connects to what." She gripped the blade. "You keep surprising me." "That's the plan," he said, grabbing his own weapon. They moved silently through the ruins, sticking to the shadows. The drone passed above them, scanning. Ryan held Kayla back until it flew away. Then they moved toward the mountain edge. From the cliff, Kayla could see a comms tower, half broken but tall. That tower, it might still work. "I've been watching it," Ryan said. "If we get up there, I might be able to send a signal." She nodded. "Let's go." But halfway down the slope, Kayla stopped. "Wait." She knelt and touched the black soil. "There's something under here," she whispered. Ryan helped dig. Soon they uncovered a hidden tunnel entrance, one Kayla never knew existed. A secret route? A supply path? Or a trap? Ryan looked at her. "You sure you want to go in?" Kayla looked up at the tower, then at the enemy lines building again in the distance. "Yes. We go down. We fight smart now." Ryan smirked. "Now we're talking like humans." She punched his shoulder, lightly. "Don't push it." And together they entered the darkness below, unaware of what hunted them from both above and below. Steel and scars. The tunnel walls were narrow and cold. Kayla's breathing echoed in the dark, her steps uneven from the pain in her leg. The human, Ryan, walked, ahead with a small light clipped to his chest. The glow painted the stone walls in flickering shadows. He moved like he had walked in places like this before, quiet, careful, always watching. Behind them, the tunnel entrance closed with a grinding sound. Something shifted above. The enemy was searching again. "We're sealed in," Kayla whispered. Ryan nodded without looking back. "Good. Gives us a head start." The tunnel wasn't in any of her maps. It was old, built before her people arrived on this planet. Maybe even by the original settlers, long forgotten. Strange marks covered the stone, symbols Kayla couldn't read. As they walked deeper, the air turned dry and still. No machines, no scouts, just silence. Kayla finally spoke. "You're not afraid?" "I'm used to tight places," Ryan said. "Spent 6 months in a mine shaft once. Hiding from bounty hunters." Kayla raised an eyebrow. "You're full of strange stories." "Only the true ones," he said with a grin. She smiled faintly, but then winced. Her side flared with pain again. Ryan turned, shining the light on her. Her bandage was soaked. "You're bleeding through," he said, kneeling down. "I can keep moving." "You shouldn't." She didn't answer but didn't argue either. He pulled off his pack and reached for another med patch. This one was different. Round, silver, and marked with a red cross. Earth Tech again. Ryan pressed it gently to her wound. A warm pulse ran through her body, numbing the pain. Kayla looked at him. "That's advanced tech, not standard military issue." "I stole it from a Terran outpost," he admitted. "Wasn't planning to share it, guess plans change." "Why help me?" she asked softly. He looked into her eyes. "Because I've seen too many good fighters die alone. You shouldn't be one of them." Kayla felt something strange in her chest, something she hadn't felt since her brother died in the last war. Trust. They rested for a few minutes. Kayla leaned against the wall while Ryan scanned the map on his wrist. The signal flickered but showed a rough outline. "There's a ladder up ahead. Might connect to the base of the tower," he said. Kayla nodded. "Let's move before they catch our scent." They walked again, deeper into the underground world. But then, they heard it. A soft scraping sound. Something else was down there with them. Kayla and Ryan stopped moving. The sound was slow, like claws against stone. Ryan pulled his blade. "It's not a machine, too quiet." Kayla raised her weapon. "Not one of ours either." A shadow shifted at the end of the tunnel. Suddenly, it charged, a creature of bone and armor, long arms, empty black eyes. It leaped with a roar. Ryan tackled Kayla to the ground just as it passed above them. It slammed into the wall, turned, and charged again. Kayla fired a pulse from her blade. The light cut through its chest, but it didn't stop. Ryan jumped onto its back, stabbing down with brutal force. The creature screamed, then fell. Kayla pulled herself up, breathing hard. That wasn't in any report. Ryan wiped his blade. "I think this planet has secrets your generals don't know." She looked down at the dead thing. "It's ancient, maybe left behind, or guarding something." They moved quickly after. That soon they reached the ladder. Rusted, shaky, but it held. Ryan climbed first, then helped Kayla up. When they emerged, they were at the foot of the comms tower. Above them, the sky was darker, heavy with new clouds. But they were close now. Kayla looked at the tower. "If we get a signal out, maybe we can bring help." Ryan smirked. "Or more trouble." "I'll take either," she said. Before they climbed, Kayla paused. "Thank you. For saving me. Twice. Now." Ryan looked at her, eyes serious. "It won't be the last time." Together they began the climb, step by step, toward the top of the broken tower, unaware that enemy scouts had already picked up their trail. A new kind of ally, the tower, creaked in the wind like it was about to fall. Each step on the rusted metal ladder made a sharp clang. Kayla's hand slipped once, her wound aching, but she kept climbing. Below her, Ryan followed quietly, watching the horizon. They reached the top. The wind was cold and fierce. Metal sheets flapped. Loose cables hung like dead vines. The tower had once been a beacon. Now it was barely standing. But in the middle of the platform sat an old Earth-style transmitter. Ryan knelt beside it, wiping dust off the console. This is Terran tech. Outdated, but it might still work. Kayla crouched beside him. Why is Terran gear on an alien tower? Because this place used to be ours, Ryan said softly. Long before your people claimed it. She looked at him. That's not in our records, he smirked. Exactly. Ryan opened the panel and started working fast. His fingers moved with purpose, but Kayla could feel his tension. Tell me what you need, she asked. He looked up. Cover me. I'll try to send a pulse. Could call for help. Or bring a nightmare. Kayla raised her blade and stood at the edge of the platform. From up here, she could see the wasteland, burning hills, shattered ships, and black clouds crawling in the sky. Then she saw them, drones. At least 6. Flying straight toward the tower. Company, she warned. Ryan didn't look up. Buy me 3 minutes. Kayla nodded and leapt into action. The first drone fired a beam. Kayla ducked and rolled. She threw a pulse bomb, and the sky lit up with fire. One drone exploded in midair, another zipped in low. Kayla jumped and slashed with her blade, a perfect cut, but one beam struck the tower, shaking it. Ryan held onto the console. Almost there! 2 more drones circled them now. Kayla's blade sputtered. Its power cell was dying again. Ryan, she shouted. I need... Before she finished, he tossed a new core across the floor. She caught it, jammed it into her blade, and jumped, straight through a drone's scanning beam. Her blade hummed bright blue again. She sliced the drone clean in half, but the last drone aimed for Ryan. He turned too late. The drone fired. Kayla screamed, Down! Ryan dropped, and the drone's beam missed by inches. Kayla threw her blade like a spear. It pierced the drone's eye and sent it crashing off the tower. Silence followed. Ryan stood slowly, his lip bleeding. That your version of air support? Kayla grinned, panting. You're lucky I didn't miss. He nodded toward the console. Signals sent. With any luck, someone heard us. They both turned toward the edge of the tower, watching the horizon. Then, something moved. Not machines. Not drones, a black flag, a war banner, marching soldiers. Kayla narrowed her eyes. That's not ours. Ryan's face darkened. It's the Shadowborn, exiled from both our worlds. Why would they come here? He pointed at the tower. Because of this. Kayla cursed under her breath. Then we climb down and leave before they reach us. But Ryan didn't move. Ryan. He looked at her, his voice serious. They're not just hunting us. What do you mean? I saw what they did before, he said quietly. They don't leave survivors, not soldiers, not children. Kayla stared at him. You want to fight them? He nodded. They're bringing death. But now we've got a chance to bring something else. Kayla tilted her head. Like what? He turned toward her with steady eyes. Hope. The word hung in the wind. Kayla looked down at her blade, then at the burned world below. Maybe she had fought alone for too long. Maybe trusting someone again wasn't weakness. She nodded once. You're strange, human, she said. Not the first time I've heard that. Still, she added, gripping her blade, you fight like one of us. Ryan smiled. Kayla took her position beside him, both staring at the enemy forces approaching in the distance. We make a stand here? She asked. Ryan shrugged. Might be fun. The tower groaned again, but this time it felt stronger somehow. They were no longer 2 broken warriors. They were a team. Burn the sky. The tower shook again, this time not from wind, but from the storm of war rising in the distance. Kayla narrowed. Her eyes. Down below, the Shadowborn army marched closer. Dozens of them. All in black armor, faces hidden by masks shaped like skulls. They carried spears that sparked with dark energy, and beasts walked beside them. Massive, scaled things with metal plates and glowing eyes. They're bringing war beasts, Kayla said, voice low. Ryan stood beside her, checking the last weapon in his belt. Of course they are. Wouldn't be a party without them. She gave him a sharp look. We're 2 people against an army. He glanced at her. Correction, we're 2 very angry people with high ground. He ran back to the old transmitter and yanked off a large panel. Behind it, something hidden. Kayla stepped closer. What is that? An old Earth missile core, Ryan answered. I saw the symbols when we climbed up. I hoped it was still inside. He pulled out the missile, its casing dusty but intact. This was once a signal tower, but in older times, it doubled as a defense station. Kayla blinked. You're telling me this tower can shoot down an army? He looked at the launcher mount at the tower's edge. Maybe once. Now. I just want it to give us 10 seconds. Kayla's heart pounded. Ryan moved like lightning. He connected wires, patched energy lines using pieces from downed drones and loaded the missile core into place. Kayla stood at the edge again. The Shadowborn were setting up artillery. We're out of time, she said. I just need one clean shot, Ryan replied. Suddenly, a howl. A massive black beast leapt from the Shadowborn ranks and started climbing the tower like a spider. It had 4 arms and a long tail like a whip. Kayla aimed her plasma blade down and waited. You take the shot, I'll handle the climber. She took a deep breath and jumped. Her body fell through smoke and fire. As the beast reached halfway up, she landed hard on its back, driving her blade deep between its shoulders. The creature screamed and twisted, slamming her into the tower wall. She held on, blood in her mouth, refusing to let go, her legs wrapped around its thick neck as she stabbed again and again. The tower swayed. Ryan aimed the launcher. The signal turned green. Come on. Hold together, he muttered. The moment locked in time. Kayla hanging off a snarling monster. Ryan aiming a half-broken missile launcher at an approaching death wave. And the Shadowborn commander raising his dark flag. Ryan fired. The missile soared like a comet, cutting through smoke and clouds. The sound split the sky. It struck the enemy artillery just as they powered it up. Boom! A fireball swallowed the ground. Dozens of Shadowborn fell. Their beasts screamed and scattered. The shockwave hit the tower and almost knocked Ryan over. Below, Kayla finally stabbed the beast through the head. It dropped, lifeless, crashing to the ground. She rolled, gasping, covered in blood and dust. Ryan reached down from above, holding out his hand. Kayla looked at it, then took it. He pulled her up, coughing. You okay? I think I broke something, she muttered. Yeah, he said. You broke their front line. Kayla gave a tired smile. They both looked out again. The Shadowborn weren't retreating, but they weren't marching forward either. You just bought us time, she said. He nodded. That's all we need. Kayla touched her comm. To anyone still listening, this is Kayla of Clan Virex. With a human beside me, I held the tower. If you can hear this, don't be afraid. Join us. No reply, but she didn't lower the mic. Repeat, she said. We're alive, we're fighting back, you are not alone. Then, crackling, a voice answered. We hear you. Another voice. On our way. Then more. A dozen signals lit up the console. Ryan looked at her, eyebrows raised. Looks like you made a speech. Kayla's voice was steady now. I didn't make a speech. I started a fight. And they stood side by side as the first lights of Allied ships lit the sky far in the distance. The price of unity. The next sunrise did not bring peace. Smoke still filled the air, and the ground was covered with ash, broken metal, and bodies, some machine, some not. The tower had survived, barely, but its shadow stretched far over the battlefield, where silence now replaced screams. Kayla sat near the base of the tower, her armor scorched, her blade resting across her knees. Her body ached, but her heart felt heavier. Ships had arrived at dawn, not Shadowborn ships, but her people's warcraft. The Allied signal had worked. Reinforcements had come, but so had questions and orders. Ryan was now inside a field cage, a glowing barrier box set by the commander of her faction. He sat on a crate inside, arms crossed, face calm, but his eyes watched everything. Kayla stood outside the cage. She had been there for hours, waiting. Finally, the armored figure of Commander Thalvin stepped forward, flanked by 2 guards. "Step away from the prisoner," he said coldly. Kayla stood her ground. "He's not a prisoner. He's the reason this tower still stands." Thalvin's 4 black eyes stared at her. "He's human, a rogue, a former smuggler. Our law says he must be processed." "Processed?" She spat. "He saved my life. Fought beside me. He killed more enemies than 3 squads combined." Thalvin didn't blink. "You broke protocol, Kayla. You bonded in battle with an unregistered species. You transmitted his voice through our secure channels. You disobeyed 3 field rules." Kayla stepped closer. "And I'd do it again." A silence followed. Then, Thalvin turned to Ryan. "Do you deny these charges?" Ryan leaned forward. "No. I just didn't know surviving a war counted as a crime." Thalvin's mandibles twitched. "You were a mercenary, a wanderer, a threat." Ryan's smile vanished. "I'm not the one who left soldiers to die alone." Kayla raised her voice. "Commander, listen to me. He wasn't a threat. He was my ally. He still is." Thalvin paused, then gave a slow, bitter nod. "Very well. We will not execute him." Kayla exhaled. "But we will exile him." Her heart dropped. "What?" Thalvin continued. "He is to be dropped in the Outlands. No return, no contact, no support." Kayla clenched her fists. "You're punishing him for helping me?" "I'm punishing you for forgetting who we are," Thalvin snapped. "We do not kneel to humans, we do not bleed beside them, we lead them, we outlast them." Kayla's voice was quiet now. "Then maybe we forgot how to win." Thalvin walked away without another word. 2 guards stepped forward and opened the cage. Ryan walked out slowly, stopping beside Kayla. He looked at her. "You don't have to fight for me." "I'm not," she whispered. "I'm fighting for what's right." He gave her a small, tired smile. "Then I'd say we both lost the same war." They led him to a ship, a small one, worn and rusted, a transport to the Outlands. Kayla followed to the ramp, stopping just before the threshold. Ryan turned back to face her. For the first time, she didn't know what to say, so he spoke first. "You saved me too, you know, in that tunnel. On the tower. In more ways than one." Kayla stared at him. "This isn't over." He smiled. "No, it's just paused." Then he stepped inside. The door closed. The engines flared, and the ship rose into the gray sky, carrying the only human she had ever trusted into exile. Kayla stood still long after it disappeared, but she didn't return to her unit. She didn't stand with the commanders. Instead, she turned away from the base toward the far side of the valley, where the shadows of the Outlands waited, and with steady breath and silent steps, she followed. Together, wee fight dust covered her boots. Kayla had been walking for days, alone, far from command, far from safety. Her armor was lighter now, marked with symbols she had carved herself. She no longer carried her unit's crest. She was no longer their soldier. She was something else. A quiet fire burned in her chest. The Outlands were brutal. Dry, jagged rocks cut the sky. Strange creatures watched her from cracks in caves. Most travelers died out here in a day. But Kayla was not most travelers. She had a name to follow, Ryan. She didn't know exactly where he had been dropped, but she followed signs. Broken drone trails, boot prints, small flares burned into rocks. She knew his style now. He left clues like a shadow whispering through dust. Finally, after 9 days of silence, she heard a voice. "Kayla?" She spun, blade, ready, then froze. He stood on the ridge above her, clothes torn, one arm bandaged, and a makeshift spear in hand. He looked surprised, and maybe a little afraid. "You found me," he said softly. She stared at him. "Took you long enough to say hello." He dropped the spear. "You came." She nodded once. "I said this wasn't over." They stared at each other for a moment. Then Ryan stepped down the ridge and stood beside her. Kayla looked around. "Any friends out here?" "Just wild dogs and worse," he said. "I kept busy. Made a small camp near an old bunker." She smirked. "Still, building from junk? You know me." They walked together toward a cliffside where an old structure hid behind vines and stone. Inside, Ryan had made a shelter, a working terminal, 2 energy rifles, even a small fire system. She sat beside it. He handed her a ration bar. They ate in silence for a while. Then Kayla finally asked, "Why didn't you come back?" He looked at her. "They made it clear my face isn't welcome." She leaned forward. "But your fight is." Ryan raised an eyebrow. Kayla pulled out a small data chip and plugged it into his terminal. A projection appeared, a map. But not just any map. Enemy movement, shadowborn warpaths, civilian camps caught in their line of fire, and one location marked, in red, the Valley of Tears, a known refugee zone now under silent siege. "They're targeting innocents," Kayla said. "Your exile was a distraction. They're pushing forward again." He clenched his fists. "Thalvin and his command are too slow," she added. "They're protecting borders, not people." "And you?" Ryan asked. She looked at him, eyes glowing with purpose. "I protect the ones left behind." He stared at her, quiet, then nodded. "I'm in." 3 nights later, the Valley of Tears screamed with fire. The shadowborn forces had come in numbers, more than Kayla expected. Too many for even a full squad, but what they didn't expect was them. Kayla dropped from a ridge, slicing through 3 armored scouts in seconds. Her movements were fast, brutal, perfect. They barely saw her coming. Then, Ryan, he, charged from the smoke, wielding a scavenged plasma cannon like it was a toy. He blasted through a wall, releasing trapped civilians. He shouted to a group of young aliens, "Go! This way! You're safe now!" A shadowborn commander spotted Kayla and raised a heavy rifle. She braced, but the commander froze. A blade had been thrown straight through his chest. Ryan stepped into view. "Told you I had your back," Kayla breathed out. "I'm getting used to it." They fought like wind and storm, separate but always circling back to each other. No orders, no commander, just 2 warriors who chose to fight as one. Word of their stand began to spread. By the time the second wave of Shadowborn came, other warriors, forgotten ones, deserters, exiles, outcasts joined them. Alien snipers, human scouts, even a half-machine girl who once ran from every battle, now stood firing beside them. The legend of the 2 at the tower had become a rallying cry, and when the dust finally settled and the enemy fled into the mountains, Kayla stood at the center of the battlefield, not as a soldier of a broken command, but as a symbol. Ryan stepped beside her. "Think they'll let us back in now?" Kayla looked at the survivors, children, old warriors, young fighters holding broken weapons. "No," she said. "We build something better," he smiled. "Together?" She turned toward him. "Always." And as the sun rose over a scarred world, the human and alien who once fought alone now stood as leaders of a new resistance, not ruled by species, not bound by law, but forged in fire and bonded in battle. Together they fought, and together they gave others a reason to stand.